Breaking right now, Piers Morgan has got his own baby reindeer stalker. And whatever you think of the uncensored host, there's something really disturbing about the targeting of people in the public eye by, quite frankly, complete crazies who will do anything possible for attention or money. Trust me, I know exactly what he's going through. So let me take you through this. Piers Morgan revealed on the front page of The Sun that he has been hounded by his own baby reindeer stalker after interviewing the Netflix's Real Life Martha. His baby reindeer, though, is called Felicity Jane Loud, and she has bombarded the TV host with wild accusations of harassment and dishonesty in an apparent bid for a big payout. But what Piers Morgan has done is pull a Jay-Z, and rather than pay this woman to shut up, he has decided to speak out. And this is what Piers Morgan said. What she was trying to accuse me of was absurd, complete fantasy. He said the despicable piece of work will finally be stopped. And here's where it gets shocking. This woman has filed 64 cases against celebrities in the past year, including a bizarre claim that Piers hijacked her brother's identity. Now, this is obviously really shocking given that this woman had been jailed for 6 months in 2007 for stalking a woman called Rachel North, who was a survivor of the July 7 bombings. How low can you go? And Piers had never actually met or had contact with her, even though last September she filed a Central London County Court judgment against him and his production company. In an apparent bid to force him into a hefty payout, she accused Piers of abuse, harassment, fraud, and dishonesty. She claimed that Piers had worked with insalubrious associates on a campaign involving stealing my creative work and family history to promote himself as a member of my family. And she claimed he is promoting himself as a lost aristocrat to compensate for his humiliations on the world stage after his campaign of stalking and harassment of Harry and Meghan. I knew they were going to be there somewhere. Loud also accused Piers of being sexually obsessed with toilets. Piers added, I didn't want to have to defend it, but you have to after being contacted by the court. Otherwise, it goes through the court process and you can get a judgment against you or your company, which is what she was trying to do. Now, Piers did actually win this case. She will have to pay him £6,000 of damages, but he said, I've no expectation of seeing any of that money, nor is anyone else. She is a harasser, a bit like baby reindeers. This could happen to anyone. And by the way, Loud is also believed to have targeted the Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. So let me bring in Alex Phillips, who is, of course, behind her own Substack. That's what she said on this very disturbing case. And Alex, what's really interesting about this is I think increasingly people are seeing what was done to Donald Trump in the US and are thinking that they can use the UK court system to wage legal warfare against high-profile, well-paid people just wanting a settlement. And the problem is sometimes celebrities will just pay a settlement to think this just needs to go away. So I give a lot of kudos to Piers Morgan for actually calling out his very own baby reindeer.
Yeah, and actually he's in a position of power where he can, because, you know, a lot of things wouldn't affect him. He's made millions, he's got a high profile, he can afford top lawyers, but things like this happen all the time on smaller levels. So, for example, I'll give you a story from my hairdresser, right? He said that he had employed a woman who was from, I think it was Albania, who'd come to work in the salon, who hadn't disclosed that she was pregnant. Anyway, she worked there for about 6 weeks or something, then she left, and then she brought a lawsuit against him and said, I was pregnant and I had nowhere to lie down. I didn't have my own toilet facilities. I didn't have this, I didn't have that, da, 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 da. Now, he should have easily been able to win that in court, but the point is, he would have to then pay for lawyers. And by the time all the legal bills are racked up and the time it takes, he kind of felt compelled to be able to, had to just try and settle with her out of court. There are loads of opportunists who are using our legal system, not least to say all of these so-called migrants who have second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth appeals to stay in this country for all sorts of ridiculous reasons. What is farcical about that is actually it is the UK taxpayer that pays both the government's legal bills and the defence bill of the particular migrant in question. I don't know how this woman seems to have been able to afford having all these cease and desist letters, whatever it may be, CCJs and a lot of it. We've got big issues in our legal system. We know that. We know that things that should never make it to court are making it to court. We were speaking earlier about people currently in prison who should never be in prison on sentences that are trumped up, to say the least. But what I would say about this woman, she's clearly unwell. She's got mental health issues. She has a problem. And again, what we have in this country is a system that will keep asylum seekers, so-called asylum seekers here, we'll say about someone who goes around stabbing someone up, oh, well, they've got mental health issues. This woman clearly has mental health issues. She probably needs to be institutionalized. Again, that's a whole other debate, but we constantly bemoan the fact we don't have enough people in social care. We don't have enough therapists, people on waiting lists for a year to get talking therapists. Well, back in the day, we actually had a sort of well-wrought system of asylums, for instance. Now, those are the privileges of the rich, those people who could afford to go to the Priory. We just have failure everywhere you look in the UK. But one thing is clear, we really need to grab the nettle. We need to get a grip of the mental health crisis. But more than this, we need to get a grip of the judicial system, which seems to be in its own mental health crisis.
But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that's for a very good reason, given the Brexit debate, COVID debacle, demonisation of Donald Trump, describing Reform UK as dangerous. You get it right. But I have the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, was created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself. But let me show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's take the recent game-changing speech by the US Vice President JD Vance to the Munich Security Conference, where he just tore into the European governments, including ours here in the UK, for the despicable retraction of free speech. And what you can see very clearly on Ground News, which collates the 361 sources in one place, is instantly how the story is being covered, broken down by whether the media leans to the left or the right. This is illustrated by Ground News' brilliant bias distribution service. If you scroll down, you can see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. So in this case, it shows quite clearly that Newsmax and GB News gave fair and accurate coverage focused on how finally JD Vance had the guts to point out uncomfortable truths to European leaders. But by stark contrast, the left-wing Huffington Post claimed the speech left all of Europe aghast, while the Independent missed the lead altogether to focus on Vance's joke about Elon Musk, which they claimed bombed. It didn't, by the way. What's more, though, Ground News actually gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in while also analysing your own biases. So my favourite feature is that it comes up with potential blind spots that you might not be hearing about because of the corruption of the MSM. So look, I know you love the news. That's why you're watching Outspoken. But like me, you don't trust the legacy media. What Ground News does is give you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. This is the only way I read the news now. It allows you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives without needing to rely on the MSM to define the truth for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. And guess what? Subscribe through my link today and you'll get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded and supporting my sponsors also supports my work. So for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It's been a game changer for a news junkie like me. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now back to the show. Do you think sometimes, Alex, though, we hide far too much behind the concept of mental health? Because let me just read out how Piers describes this woman. So he describes Loud as a convicted stalker who harassed a terror attack survivor. He says it's hardly possible to think of anything more despicable. She's still clearly a disturbed, unhinged human being. And he added, it does make me wonder if it would be taken more seriously if she was a man targeting a woman. I do think there's a bit of a double standard there. And there's nothing to actually suggest, Alex, that this woman does have some sort of actual diagnosed mental health condition. She might just be a really nasty piece of work.
Yeah, I agree. But he did use the word disturbed and unhinged, which to me suggests mad. And I think that you can have all sorts of personality disorders and this, that, and the other that can lead to certain things. But what I'm saying is, we trip over ourselves to say, oh, well, it must be mental health when it's just a blimmin' terrorist. But this woman clearly is disturbed and unhinged. I agree with Piers Morgan on that. And whether or not sitting down and having cognitive behavior therapy is going to suddenly revolutionize her life and she's going to be nice, I don't know. I don't know enough about the case. But like I said, the problem that we do have is whether you are disturbed and unhinged or whether you are a low-life, criminal foreign gang. A lot of people are now, or migrants who has no right to be in this country. A lot of people are able to exploit our judicial system. And if you're someone who's not disturbed and unhinged and just going about life, making money, being private, living within the law, you feel like you're constantly attacked. I feel like that. And everything, all the time is like, oh, well, you've gone 25 in a 20-mile-per-hour zone. Oh, great. You're literally coming after me for a crime that's actually really difficult to not commit, and letters come through the post because of this. I've recently tried to apply for a mortgage, and there's some character from my past who sent me a dick pic. He was an accountant 10 years ago, right? And I just said, I don't want you to be my accountant anymore. And all of a sudden, he's managed to bring up CCJs against me because I rejected his advantages and his advances. And I'm having to go through a load of nonsense.
God, that is appalling.
Oh, God. Dan, it's just, I'm used now in the modern world to feeling like I'm the one who's got to constantly answer to something. However hard I try, it's like,
yeah,
and then,
is appalling.
Killers are just, the kid doesn't like chicken nuggets.
Yeah, I just think we have to be so careful. And you're completely right to tie it to those cases, by the way, because I guess it does show that the system is being abused in so many ways. And we have to be incredibly careful because the problem we have, Alex, is that using a lawyer will bankrupt most people, which is why folk think, let's just settle it. Let's just get rid of this crazy person from my life. And that shouldn't be going on.
Right, we never used to have lawfare in this country. That was always a very American thing. And like most American things, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. And for a lot of America said, I'm going to sue you for this. I'm going to litigate against you for that. We never really had that system. It was always sort of commonsensical, If someone's committed a crime or if someone's actually committed fraud or if someone owes a lot of money, then things end up in court. But creepingly now, and it's the fault of the government who have started doing these things, they've started bringing in courts and legislation for all sorts of stuff. Whether it be free speech, whether it be 20-mile-per-hour zones, whether it be not paying the TV license, stuff that should have no business in courts is now clogging up the courts. And there seems to be more focus on these non-crimes and the amount of energy and time that they consume. And this has kind of led to this spiraling out of control of the judicial system where the big things are kind of overlooked. It's like, oh, well, never mind, you don't have to go to jail. Or some sort of liberal Guardian reading so-called progressive judge goes, well, this person's child doesn't like chicken nuggets back home and wherever they're from, so they've got to stay here, right to family life, ECHR. The whole sort of common sense of the thing that's supposed to underpin common sense, which is the judicial system, has been flipped. And in a country, when you stop trusting your judicial system, when you stop trusting the letter of the law to be something that defends the weak, defends the vulnerable, defends the good, defends those who, are sort of committed civic citizens who do all of their duties under the eyes of the law. When the law starts going after them and starts penalizing and penalizes them and stops going after and penalizing criminals, then you are in a very sticky situation. And it's clear that this is happening now in the United Kingdom.
It is. It's very, very disturbing. And look, some people will say, oh, Piers Morgan, what does he have to worry about? But in this case, I absolutely credit him with going public rather than just paying the woman off, which would have been very, very easy for him to do. Alex Phillips, so brilliant to chat. And please make sure you subscribe to Alex's incredible Substack. That's What She Said. And we will speak next week. Thank you so much, Alex.
See you, Dan.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.